caffeine used to feel magical. It used to feel electric. There was something about it where when you had that first sip, and not actually on the first sip, but when it kicked in, you felt energetic. Everything felt slightly better. It felt like you had more energy to do things, pleasurable things, unpleasurable things. But things like work, studying, they felt easier. They became more enjoyable. You could do those things for longer sessions, and in general, it just kind of amplified life. It had that motivation boost, had that dopamine boost. And not only that, but as you get older, and this is something strange that I started to notice, but caffeine and productivity are almost linked, kind of like bread on butter, or sprinkles on donuts, or whatever, right? If you're drinking, more coffees, you might be seen as a good worker, or if you're tired before a shift, you can have an energy drink and keep going. And it's not just work now. I think caffeine extends to things like working out, and there's people, having pre-workout to enhance that, and just sort of everyone getting wired on caffeine these days. And it's an interesting thing as well, because even within the caffeine community, energy drinks will get demonized by coffee drinkers, and you'll have matcha drinkers who will demonize both. But I find it just all ties in to the sense of productivity as you get older. Whereas, when you're studying or in college, there's sort of a buzz that you get from caffeine that seems to just go away. But I think for me, I don't know if any of you are feeling this way, but I'm not someone who drinks a lot of caffeine, right? I'll have, a Monster every few days. I don't really drink coffee or anything like that. But at some point, and I think specifically when I started trying to use caffeine as a way to make me feel less tired, it started feeling less powerful. Back in the day when I would drink it, it would be with the goal to gain this energy, to work harder, to work better. But now, it's almost like it's to prevent a feeling of tiredness. And even at that point, it doesn't really feel like it does that effectively, right? And I think a lot of people at this point would either quit or increase the amount that they have. But I don't know, I've sort of tried both of those things, and it doesn't really have any effect. So I think I'm at a bit of a weird point with it. Maybe it's something like chasing that old feeling of energy that it used to provide. And on a bit of a side note, don't you guys think it's almost strange that, when we're tired, that things like a coffee are pushed onto us more than having good sleep? It's strange that we're almost chasing these standards, these goals, these targets to achieve, and almost willing to neglect health for it. And I think there's this sense that, especially in, the workforce, the school force, that everyone's trying to optimize themselves and, perform at the highest standard for all times. And I feel like there's an atmosphere of comparison that sort of just exacerbates that issue, where the modern world feels almost permanently exhausted in a way, and our baseline is combating that. So yeah, this video wasn't really intended to be one where it's offering solutions, more just stating my mind, a thought that I had, with me in particular. I suppose things like exercise would probably help, but I don't know, it's hard because with caffeine, I think one of the big appeals to it is that it's quick and it's easy, right? If you're tired, you can drink something and be more energized, more alert, and you can do it, during work, during school. Whereas with something like exercise, I mean, firstly, it takes a lot more effort, a lot more willpower, which not everyone is able to do. But also, I think there's part of it that's just accessibility. I mean, especially if you are tired in the moment, and it could be pretty hard to exercise when you feel like you can barely keep your eyes awake, and that caffeine almost has that sense of reliance. So when that starts to not work, it's a strange feeling. So, I mean, this ending is going to be left a bit unresolved. I'd be curious to know what any of your experiences have been with caffeine, and, I'll still drink it. I'm not saying I'm going to stop drinking it, but I don't really know if it's doing anything anymore, if it's helping. Anyway, that'll probably be the end of the video. If any of you enjoyed the video, then would really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. Thanks.